Soil testing and soil sampling is of vital importance to any type of sustainable production that you want to do on your farm. The question that the Mr. asked, there is a very important question as to where can you go about getting your soil tests done, right? And there are multiple answers to that question. So the correct answer, as Mr. Thompson has given before, is the Produce Chemist Lab, right? That's the most official place that you can go. I believe there are also commercial areas that might be doing the soil testing. I always see advertisement for Applied Soil Lab. So that's one place that you can also explore. But what you can do as well is to do your preliminary tests on your own land, right? So you can do simple soil tests that can give you, the results are not too precise, so to speak, but it's something that can give you a proper gauge so that when you actually send out your samples, of course it's going to take some time to come back. So during that time, you can do those simple tests to kind of give you a guide as to how to proceed. So I have some tools and equipment here. In terms of soil sampling, this is what you call an auger, right? So you use that to take your samples that you can send to the lab, right? You can also take samples to get by yourself to use. What's important is that you can see that it has somewhat of a spiral, or some of them have a straight dimension, but the idea is really to minimize how much disturbance you do to your sample of soil, right? So you have your soil auger. You also have your soil core, or your bulk density core. So this is to do a more specific type of soil test when you send up to the lab. And these tests are what is capable to be done at the lab. Mr. Thompson mentioned myself and Mr. Henry went to do the session on that. Right, so the samples you'll be doing would be able to be tested in the labs that we have. As time moves forward, Castellan and stuff will increase the capacity of the soil lab, and of course, we're going to share that with the extension officers, and they can get that to the farmers. So for the soil core, you want to have a mallet with you, piece of 2x4 or so. Of course, when you're doing these things, it's always good to have your gloves and so, protective gloves, and you have to have material to place the sample in. So usually we can use the Ziploc bags, right? I actually have a sample here. You can use the Ziploc bags, and it will have places for you to write. So you can, when you send in your sample, you put in what type of tests you would like to, get done. If it's a general soil test, if you're looking for soil nutrients, pH, whatever, you put your name, you put the date, you put the location of your farm, your contact number, and so. So these are just some things I want you to keep in mind. So after you take your sample, like I say, you can do your own simple tests in your lab, depending on what you want to test. So you can, what's important, you want to know the type of soil you have. The type of soil, of course, will have implications on your water management, your soil management as well. So I'll do a small demonstration of how you can do a quick soil test to know your soil texture. And what's available on the island is we have this test kit. It's a rapid test kit. Well, the name kind of says it. It gives you a quick results as to just an idea of the condition of your soil. So like I say, you can use it while you wait for your results. So this test kit tests soil nutrients and soil pH. So I'll just do a quick demonstration. Of course, all the instructions will be on the kit. So you can, of course, you can read it and follow your instructions. It also comes with some advice as to how you can go about managing your resources. So the kit comes with, some chemicals that you can, or reagents that will mix with the soil and give you a certain result. So for instance, here we have potash test, right? Potassium. The kit also has a pipette with it that you can use to extract your sample. The pH test is a little bit different to that of the soil nutrient test, so you go about doing it. For the pH test, you take the soil sample, and you directly put it into this area here, right? So it has a mark where you show you where you can fill with the soil, after which you will fill the rest with the water, and you apply the reagent. And then the idea really is to test, to compare, the color in which is provided here based on the mixture, and the colors that are distributed here on the cube. Differently, for the pH test, for the soil nutrient test, you will have to mix your sample with some distilled water, right? Or rainwater would be fine as well. And you apply that water here, right? You pour the water in here, and you pour some in here as well. But in this section, you also add the reagent, and that reagent will show you how the soil is supposed to look if it has whatever amount. So for instance, this doesn't give you an exact number as what you would get from the soil lab. You get an exact number as to how much potash you might have in the soil, or how much nitrogen or so you might have in the soil, which will let you know how much to apply. But here it gives you a general idea. So it uses general terminologies like depleted, deficient, adequate, sufficient, or surplus. And these are also guided by colors. So you can, and it's also, for me, I'm not sure for it, it's also something fun to do. You test your soil and you see the condition of your soil from time to time. You can see how the colors may vary based on your application and the soil management, right? So at this point, we can go to the field. Yeah.
How much one of these kits would cost?
Oh, that's a very, very good question. Yes, yes, and I wanted to speak on that, and it just passed me. So I purchased this in Ace in Grandans. I'm not sure if they have in town as well, but I get it in Ace in Grandans. And if my memory serves me right, it cost me about $70, $70 to $75, around there. The level of nutrients or the pH of your soil, it varies a lot, even within your own plot. Even within your own plot, you might have a certain pH here, and just right over there, the pH might be different, right? So it might not be, reliable to use in such a situation. What you would want to get for that might be more soil microbes and stuff, testing of that. So the microbes that might be in that area might be more specific to that area than somewhere else. So if, as you say, somebody takes somebody's sweet potato, you can compare the soil microbes on the soil, on that potato, to the area where the farmer says the potato come from. And if the microbes match to a certain percentage, then most likely that will be, where it came from. Yeah. But we have not reached that capacity as yet. The Produce Chemist Lab has not reached that capacity as yet. As Mr. Thompson alluded to, we are headed to that direction. So give us about, 2 months, 5 years? 2 years. Right, so 2 years. And we will be doing the soil microbe test. Yeah, so let's go outside and see if we could take some samples. Same direction when you go back up, right? Because if you turn back, so you're basically kind of releasing the soil, so to speak. So you keep going that direction while you pull up, and you're supposed to get a good sample here, right? Then you take your, right, so then you take your bag. Thanks, Miss Marshall. And what is advised is that you put it in the bag yourself, right? Just to avoid any casualties. You never know what could take place, right? So try to get as much of the soil into, much as the sample into your bag. Now, when you're doing these samples, of course, there are different ways you can go about doing it, or different methods. You can do what you call a composite sample, where you can go to different areas, right? And then you can put all that together, mix it up, and you get an idea. Because like I said before, different areas will give you different readings. So sometimes you just want to have a general reading of the area. And how you go about selecting where you sample is dependent on you as well, and what you want to read. So you can have a grid area. I think Mr. Thompson mentioned the soil mapping, that some of the extension officers are aware of that as well. So you give you certain GPS locations and so on, and it might send you places that you might not want to go in, Anthony, huh? Right. So another sampling that we can do is bulk density sampling, right? So you use this core here for bulk density sampling. Now, all of these are, they are calibrated in a certain way, right? So that you can have consistent readings, right? No matter who does it. And if you look closely, you can see that the two sides are a little bit different. One is a little bit more inside, and of course, this is the area you're going to put the core, right? So you have to make sure that is a clear area, right? You want to take out as much debris, or if it's an area like this, you'll have to clear any grass or so that's in the area, right? So you put the core there, and then you use something solid right over it, because you don't want to pong it directly with the mallet. You can dent it and all these things like that. And you want to get a good flush. Right, and I think I forgot one of my tools, but let me see if I can get something to substitute it. But what you have to use is, right, you can use a spatula also to remove it. I have a spoon, but it's the same idea. So you want to take out the soil around here, and as you can see, the soil here is very, loose. Right, so that means it's probably irregularly plowed. Right, because you want your sample to come up with full integrity, as much integrity as possible. Right, and you want to keep it there. Now, if it is overlapping, what we usually do is we scrape out the top. All right, so you use something with a flat edge, you scrape out the top, and you want to keep that entire sample. Right, sometimes you can send the entire sample like this. One like this, you can see it's a little bit loose, so you might want to send it up in the entire core, and let the lab techs and stuff deal with it. Or you can, well, I'm kind of afraid to put it up because it's a little bit loose. So you can extract it, but you want to keep the entire integrity of it. But like I say again, you see it's loose, right? So sometimes in a situation like that, you can give it a little bit of moisture before you go about taking the sample. But you want to apply the entire core in a situation like that. Like I said, you can send up the entire thing together. But the ideal thing is to put it in your plastic bag or so, and you can send it up to the lab. Right. Another thing we talked about was to do the testing. The simple soil testing. Now you'd want to know your soil type. So one of the ways you can determine soil type is to use the field method. And in the field method, or you call the ribbon, the first thing you can do is to get a moist sample of soil. if the sample of soil is dry, you apply some water to it. Now I look here, I can see the soil here has a little bit of moisture in it, right? So you take just about a handful or so, right? And you do different processes and you test it as it goes. So, just by visual, we can see that the soil is really loose. Yeah? And usually when the soil is like that, it can give you an indication of what type of soil it is, right? Usually something like that might be a sandy soil, right, Miss Lord? Yeah, sandy soil.
So in case they say like, here the flow, here the flow and you want to, you clean up, you want to plant. So apparently you could use the same method you have to test the soil to make sure that he is well balanced.
Yeah. The plowing is not something that you should use to determine whether you test the soil or not. But the plowing will have a implication on it. So like you see here, like I mentioned, here look like some place that is regularly plowed, and that kind of have why the soil is relatively loose, right? So you give it some moisture, and then you want to see if that soil can form a ribbon, right? Or something long like this, right? So once it can form something like this, it gives an indication that that soil has some clay content in it, right? Because as we know, clay soil tends to hold more water and have more stability than that of sandy soil that you might get on the beach. The sand on the beach don't hold, right? So you can imagine here, it's a mixture, right? We know there's sandy soil, there's clay soil, there's silty, and it all depends on the size of the soil particles, right? So in a situation like this soil, to me, has some clay content. Now, how much clay content it has can also be determined. So what you can do, you can see if it will bend and keep its integrity, keep the form. And I don't even try, because it's already falling apart, right? So to me, this type of soil here is more of a sandy clay or a sandy loam, so to speak, right? Where it's a mixture of the different soil textures, but it have more sand than the others. So as you can see, it cannot bend, right? Now, if the sample could bend and form, like a donut shape, then that shows that it has a lot more clay content in it. Now, another thing you can do, right, and the sample kind of drying out, but you want to see if it can form a consistent ribbon. So you put it between your fingers like this, and you just push out with your thumb. And this will also give you an idea as to if it's more clayey, right? So even the length of this can give you an indication as to whether it's a loamy soil, a sandy loam, etc. Right? So these are just some simple tests that you can do on your soil. So you have the rapid test, you have the soil field test, and depending on what you want to test. So if you want to know your soil texture, you can do something like that. If you want to know the nutrients also from the soil, you can use a rapid test. And if you want precise results, you send it down to your lab. So you take your soil auger, or you reach out to your extension officer to assist you with the sampling and the packaging to send down to the lab.
The next thing I want to ask you is concerning about your thermometer. You can get a thermometer to test the soil also?
For the soil temperature?
Yes.
Well, the soil temperature is also something important that you should have knowledge on. But of course, in a situation like that, you have to test more regularly, right? To get more, you want to get more present information, because the seasons change. Even just throughout the day, the temperature might fluctuate also. But yeah, that's something that you can consider. For the soil nutrient testing, you'll have to take the soil sample. You want to take the soil sample and put it in some distilled water and let it rest for about 24 hours, right? So let it rest for some time, and then you go and check the color. Now when you check the color, it's good to put it up to the sun and give you a better reading like this, or some strong light. But for the soil pH, it gives you a more ready result. So what you will do is, no, you want to use distilled water or rainwater is okay. Because if you use any other water, you know it has chemicals and stuff in those water that can throw off your reading. Right. Now usually what I do, if you look at this here, you'll see that the capsules have some fitted areas. So according to where you're applying your material, you can cover one side so that you don't, contaminate the other side. Right? What you want to use, you can use like a spoon or so to apply the soil. I don't advise you to just use your hand and do it like that. And also, you would want to wear some gloves, right? It's not a must, but I prefer you wear your gloves, and so again for any contamination. So like I say, you fill the soil up to this point here. There's a mark, a demarcation for it. All right, just dig a little bit more. Yeah, so you put it up to that line here, and then you apply your water. All right. So to use this, you squeeze. No, I want more. I ain't reach halfway yet. Right, so you squeeze the top and you open it while it's in the water. It creates that kind of suction. Right. Right, and there's another mark to show you how high to go with your water. Now I extend it a little bit, so I'll just take out some, right? So this looks okay now. And then this one, let me just open the capsule. So you take your capsule, you can try and be careful with it because it has a tendency to you can spill, right? Sometimes you can use a scissors to just clip the top also, just to be careful, right? So you take your capsule and you apply for your mixture here. Right. Use as much as you can. Then you cover. And then you mix it. Give it a vigorous shaking, and then you let it rest for about a minute. So let me just get my timer going. Right, so let it rest for about a minute. While this is resting, so on the other hand, for the other tests, it will be a little bit difficult to do here because, like I say, you'll have to let it rest for some time. But in the same context, you will fill both areas with the distilled water that you had your soil settled in for the hour or so, right? And you apply that water both sides. Then after, you take your capsule and you apply it only to this side here, right? Then you give it a shake and you let it rest. After which, it will give you a reading. One of the colors, it will change the color, right? And one of the colors here will be one of the representative of what you get. Now, for something like nitrogen, all right, so my minute is up. So something like nitrogen. Nitrogen is something that is constantly moving in the soil, right? We refer to it as a mobile nutrient. So nitrogen tests can be a little bit deceiving sometimes based on the frequency of when you go about doing the tests. But things like phosphorus and potassium will give you a more reliable result. Now, from my experience doing these rapid tests, seems like my soil is always depleted, deficient, or close to adequate. But I'm never at the top, the surplus and everything like that. But like I say, soil types can range, the nutrients and so in your soil can range. Right, so I waited for a minute and I'm going to put it to the sun and I can get an idea as to how it's looking. So I guess I can just pass it around and persons can maybe.
Green.
Yeah. So you're looking at the color here and you're comparing to the color on this side here.
pH, that's
Yeah, so that's pH.
neutral.
So it looks like neutral, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, you can pass it around. Just don't shake it, guys, hold it stable. And when you look at it, try and put it to a strong light and it can give you a better reading. Yeah, so that's basically it for the rapid test. And like I say, the instructions are all well defined. It's very easy to follow. And it also comes with recommendations for different crops, right? It lets you know the different pH level that a crop may thriving, right? Yeah, so it's a good thing to have with you on your farm or reach out to your extension unit for.